In 2001, wildlife biologist in Kenya's Samburu National Reserve documented a lioness committing biological treason. She caught a baby oryx, but instead of eating it, she adopted it. She protected the baby antelope from other lions. She chased away leopards. She starved herself to keep it safe. Over the next year, this same lioness adopted 6 different baby antelopes. When footage of this went public, viewers immediately asked the same question. Was she feeling guilty for killing their mother? The short answer is no, but the real answer hidden inside the predator's brain is much stranger. To understand what actually happens when a predator makes a kill, we have to look at the exact chemicals pumping through their nervous system. When a human sees a wounded animal, a specific part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, lights up. We experience affective resonance. We literally simulate the pain of the animal in our own head. Furthermore, humans are highly susceptible to Kinchinshima, or the baby schema. Seeing any creature with large eyes, a large head, and a soft body triggers an involuntary release of dopamine and oxytocin in our brains. We are chemically forced to feel protective. Because we feel this, we project it onto predator. It's a psychological reflex called anthropomorphism. But a predator's brain is wired under a completely different set of evolutionary rules. For decades, behavioral ecologists believed animals were incapable of empathy entirely. That changed in the 1990s when neurophysiologist Giacomo Rizzolatti discovered mirror neurons in macaque monkeys. These are specialized brain cells that fire when an animal performs an action, and when it watches another animal perform that same action. It is the biological hardware required to feel empathy. In 2011, researchers at the University of Chicago proved that rodents have this hardware too. They placed a free-roaming rat in a cage with a second rat locked inside a restrictive plastic tube. The trapped rat emitted high-frequency distress calls. The free rat frantically dug at the tube until it figured out how to open the door. The researchers then made it harder. They introduced a pile of chocolate chips, a massive caloric jackpot for a rat. The free rat still chose to open the cage and free its cage mate first, and then shared the chocolate. So, animals possess mirror neurons. They are biologically capable of empathy. Why then doesn't a wolf feel bad for the elk it's tearing apart? It comes down to a biological accounting principle called kin selection. Empathy is neurologically expensive. It requires vast amounts of cognitive energy to process the emotions of another creature. In the wild, energy is the most heavily guarded currency. Empathy evolved strictly to keep social groups, like wolf packs or primate troops, cohesive enough to raise offspring. If a predator's mirror neurons fired in sympathy for a prey animal, it would hesitate. In nature, hesitation equals starvation. Apex predators actually fail almost every time they hunt. A solitary tiger has a hunting success rate of just 5 to 10%. A polar bear succeeds only 10% of the time. Even a highly coordinated pride of lions only makes a kill on 17 to 19% of their attempt. Predators live on a constant, razor-thin margin of starvation. They burn thousands of calories chasing prey that has evolved for millions of years specifically to evade them. Any genetic mutation that caused a predator to feel pity would instantly reduce its caloric intake. That animal would weaken, fail to reproduce, and its pity genes would be permanently scrubbed from the gene pool. Evolution has aggressively engineered the predator brain to block cross-species empathy during a hunt. To a wolf, an elk is not a conscious being with a family. It is a package of calories wrapped in a dangerous, kicking defense system. But this lack of guilt often looks like pure malice. Consider a cat playing with a mouse. It bats it around, lets it escape, catches it again, and repeats the process until the mouse dies of shock or exhaustion. To a human, this looks like sadism. It looks like the cat is enjoying psychological torture. Biologists view this entirely differently. It is strict risk management. A mouse or a rat possesses incredibly sharp incisors. A single bite to a cat's eye, nose, or paw can introduce Pasteurella bacteria. In the wild, an infected paw means the cat cannot hunt. If it cannot hunt, it dies. The cat isn't torturing the mouse for fun. It is employing an exhaustion tactic. By continually batting the rodent and forcing it to sprint, the cat rapidly drains the prey's lactic acid reserve. It waits until the mouse is physically incapable of fighting back before delivering the final fatal bite to the spine. What looks like cruelty is actually an instinctual medical precaution. We see the same misunderstanding with orcas. Killer whales are infamous for tossing live seals 80 feet into the air. Marine biologists from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration have studied this behavior extensively. Orcas are highly intelligent, and they must teach their calves how to hunt. Seals possess sharp claws and teeth that can easily blind a young orca. The adults toss the seal into the air to disorient it and inflict blunt force trauma. They are permanently disabling the prey so their calves can practice the mechanics of a kill safe. There's no anger, no hatred, and no guilt. It is simply a brutally efficient classroom. So, if predators are strictly driven by survival logic, what happened with the lioness in Kenya? Why did she adopt the baby oryx? Endocrinologists trace this back to a massive chemical misfire. Female mammals are governed by powerful maternal hormones, specifically oxytocin and prolactin. When a female predator loses her own cubs or enters a state of pseudo-pregnancy, her blood is flooded with these hormones. If she encounters a newborn prey animal during this chemical peak, the visual and auditory cues of the baby, the large eyes, the high-pitched crying, can hijack her nervous system. The oxytocin completely overrides the predatory drive. Her brain misidentifies the prey as her own offspring. This isn't an act of interspecies remorse. It is a biological glitch, and the glitch rarely lasts. Because the predator cannot produce the right milk, the adopted prey usually starves. Eventually, the hormone levels drop, the predator's hunting instinct re-engages, and she will abandon or eat the very animal she just spent days protecting. Predators do not feel bad for their prey, and the entire architecture of our planet's ecosystems depends on that fact. When humans try to enforce our own morality on nature, ecosystems collapse. In the early 20th century, park rangers in Yellowstone National Park eradicated the gray wolf population. They believed they were saving the passive, peaceful elk. Without the guiltless killer, a phenomenon known as a trophic cascade occurred. The elk population exploded. They stopped moving and grazed heavily in the valleys. They ate every young willow and aspen tree. Without the roots of these trees to hold the soil, riverbanks rapidly eroded. Because the willows were gone, beavers lost their food source and disappeared. Without beaver dams, the rivers sped up and lost their marshland. Fish, amphibians, and songbirds lost their habitats. The eradication of one apex predator nearly unraveled a 3,400 square mile ecosystem. In 1995, biologists reintroduced 14 wolves to Yellowstone. The wolves immediately began hunting the elk. The elk were forced to keep moving, which allowed the willow and aspen forest to regenerate. The beavers returned, the rivers stabilized, the ecosystem recovered. It is a highly calibrated mechanism that prevents herbivores from eating the world down to the bedrock. Guilt, remorse, and pity are human luxury. We develop them to build societies, formulate laws, and cooperate in massive numbers. But out in the wild, survival operates on a different frequency. The cheetah doesn't hate the gazelle. The hawk doesn't pity the mouse. They simply operate their perfectly adapted biological machinery to secure the calories they need to see tomorrow.